Now let's learn how to initialize an array. So by now we know how to declare an array, and now I want us to talk about how to initialize it. And that simply means how can we declare and assign some content to the array at the same time. So if I'm making some comparison and I talk about how we used to initialize some individual variables, we just used to declare it and assign a value right after it. So for example, we used int num equals to 5, double b equals to 7.3, and char c equals to the lowercase h. So it's very similar to how we declared these variables, but now we just use in the declaration line also some assignment, and we initialize some value for each of these variables. And to initialize an array, we can simply use curly brackets right after the assignment to specify the values that each element of the array will have. So if we take a further look at the initialization of arrays, we can see that we can initialize an array of integers just by specifying its type, like we declared it, right? Int arr with the size of 3, and then in the curly brackets, we initialize the array with 3 integers, so that the first one will be 5, the second one will be 7, and the last element will be 10. So nothing complicated. For each element in the array, here we specified what will be its value. The first one, the second, and the third. And the same we can do also for floating point arrays. We first of all will specify the type of the array, then its name, the number of elements within, and then we will use some assignment in these curly brackets. So we created an array with 3 values, right? I'm just using 3 just for conveniency. It does not have to be only 3. It can be 1, 2, 5, 10, or whatever. And now we can say that we can also create an array of chars, an array of characters. So for example, if we want to create an array of characters that will hold your name, let's say your name is Mike, so you create a characters array. For example, in this case we have 4 elements, and each element will hold a character. So the first element will hold the letter M, I, K, and then the last element will hold the letter E. So I hope that's clear, and basically now if you are Mike, you know how to initialize your name using an array, and you can also try to do it using your own name to see if it works. So that's basically one way to initialize an array, where we specify the values for all the elements in the array. So we specify that the array is of size 3, 4, or whatsoever, but we also must specify the value for each element, like we've seen in this example. But there is also another way, which in some cases may be much more convenient to use. So let's say if you wanted to initialize an array with just zeros, then it would be just a waste of time to specify int arr in some size, let's say 20, and then using the curly brackets 20 times use the integer 0. So something easier would be just to use the 0 in these curly brackets, and this will specify and set all the elements of the array, all the 5 elements, to be equal to 0. Alright, I guess that's much easier to use. And when probably there are going to be a lot of examples when you will want to set all the values of a given array to 0, because it's used a lot in the counter arrays problems. So we will see it, I guess, in one of our challenges. Even in this course, we will see how we can count the number of times each digit appears in a number, or maybe to count the number of letters appearing at a sentence, and that's exactly when we are going to use these counter arrays. And that's why you must be capable of initializing them correctly. And also, if you would like, for example, to specify just the couple of first variables and to nullify all the remaining, you could also do something like this. So here we can see that the array is of size 5, but we just specify the first 2 elements, which will be 1 and 2. And this will set the first element to be 1 and the second element to be 2, and the remaining elements of the array will be 0. So that's another way, sort of auto-completion way of initializing the arrays. So to summarize, there are mainly two approaches to initialize an array. Either you specify the value for each of the elements of a given array based on the size of the array, or you can do this auto-completion approach where you specify just a couple of elements and then the rest of the elements of the array are going to be 0. So thank you guys for watching. Now you know how to declare an array and how to initialize it, and you are ready to move on to the next video.